welcome back, everyone, to the GitLab Duo Coffee Chat, our learning series. And this time we're learning something new, something exciting, I would say. And for that, I'm excited myself to welcome Lee from the developer relations team. Do you want to introduce yourself shortly?
Yeah, I'll try and keep it brief. As you say, part of your wider developer relations team, specifically contribute to success. And I'm a full stack engineer, so comfortable in the back end and front end. And coincidentally, used to work with C Sharp. So today, hopefully, we can dive in and see how much Duo can help us to build a basic C Sharp app.
Exactly. And I mean, as a spoiler, we talked about which topics we can kick off. And then Lee was so kind of says C sharp. And I was like, I know a little bit of C sharp. I've done it like in previous projects, but in the past 5 years, I haven't really touched it. So it can be a great way to figure out how to get started. And Lee can just go ahead sharing his screen, I guess.
Absolutely.
So we're switching roles now. And I will tell Lee what to do. No, just kidding. We will brainstorm together what we can do. Um, and one of the things we can actually do is next to like maybe we know how to set up C sharp on, is this a Linux or Mac OS? No, this is a Mac OS.
Mac, yep.
But we can also like try to ask GitLab Duo Chat how to get started with a C sharp project. So
No,
if you
I'd love to do that because I have only worked on C Sharp projects in Visual Studio before, not in VS Code. So I'm very familiar with the nice UI way of creating a project, but I've never used VS Code, which I think might want us to use the command line. So should I clone the project down first or ask some questions? Any preference?
if you haven't cloned the project just yet, you can just do that. So we're starting with like the prepared project where we will also be pushing the source code. So everyone who's watching the recording later on can see what we have done. So this is like the idea behind that. And I can see you have GitLab Duo Chat. I also learned you can like move Duo Chat to the right panel.
Oh, so we can still have that open at the same time
Yeah,
as like the file browser and
yeah. And the thing you need to do is you can drag and drop this icon to the right-hand side and then yeah, leave it there.
awesome. Great
And
tip. Thanks, Michael.
I learned it from Marco Tille in the beginning of January, so shout out to him. And when it doesn't come back, there are on the upper right corner, you have these tiles with black and white. Um, you can kind of remove it, bring it back, because sometimes it doesn't come back when you open a new Visual Studio Code instance. But this is a way of like keeping it in the current scope and also having like the source tree open or the git commit pane open while writing source code.
Brilliant, brilliant. So, shall I go ahead and just ask in my words how to start a basic console app, a C Sharp app in VS
Yeah,
Code?
yeah, let's try that. And we can always refine the prompt if we are not getting the responses as expected. And so some things I also like doing is or like to do is when thinking about how to get the best results, saying, well, I'm providing as much context as needed. Press enter, that's totally fine. Um, to say, well, I want to create a C sharp app that is like a backend. Please provide me with a gitignore or like best practices with gitignore, CI/CD config, build environment. Maybe refining it and say, I want to get started on macOS because I need to install. Um, I don't know if you can install .NET on macOS, to be honest. I need to install the Mono environment, the Mono framework. But yeah.
Let's see where it starts us. And great point. Yeah, I did think it'd be amazing if we started touching on some things like CI and code coverage and testing and that, but realize within the time constraints, we'll start by seeing if we can get something. I guess we'll start with Hello World, I imagine, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, that's always like a good start. It's just like reading this loud, install the C# extension in Visual Studio Code. That's a great idea. I was also about to suggest that actually. If it cannot find the C hash, you might also like search for C#,
Yeah,
like
although it
like this
does
one.
looks like it's a great time for the Visual Studio Code Marketplace to go down. Just
Interesting.
let me just try something. What do we know there? It's a GitLab. Search for that. Okay,
Something is
then.
off in the background, or maybe
That's
the
a great start, isn't it? Extension host.
interesting.
Just try. I've got this other one behind. See if that one's doing exactly the same thing. C#. It looks like it. That's not a great start, is it? Should we ignore that one for a second? Circle back
Yeah,
in a minute.
yeah, I ignore that one for a second. It's quite interesting. I can also try to reproduce that on my environment.
Yeah, it'd be
Not,
interesting. I mean, it might be
uh,
my internet connection. It could be anything, right? Sometimes, if not, I'll kill. I've got quite a few Visual Studio codes open at the moment, so I'll kill them all and launch a clean one if
yeah,
it's
for me it works. So it might be related to either your environment or um, you could also use let's see how it is called. You could also use the command line to install a Visual Studio Code extension. This is
okay.
something I recently learned.
Okay.
Um,
Well, let's just for sanity's sake, I'll just close all of my VS codes. So I've got a nice clean one. I do occasionally get
but yeah, I
issues with.
think from like from a debugging perspective, if something in Visual Studio Code doesn't work, try different approaches. So closing things down.
That looks immediately more promising.
Okay, yeah, the thing is, yeah, C# should also
There we
work.
go.
Yeah, let's see.
25 million. That's promising. Oh, apparently I already have it installed. Great.
Oh, but it was a good start. But
So can I get back? It's a good segue into can I get back the previous conversation I was having?
I'm actually not sure if
Okay,
this is now possible.
I'll ask
I
again.
I
No
I
worries.
do. We can ask again. I do know that the session is replicated to gitlab.com if you're using it. So if you open GitLab Duo Chat on gitlab.com SaaS, you will see the conversation. But I think I'm not sure exactly how this is synced via client, like Visual Studio Code. But maybe it's time for a feature request or for some feedback in that regard. Because I would love to have like more history inside. So when I type /history, for example, having the same behavior as like a shell terminal, where you can search the history or press cursor up and down, just to have some repeatable or reusable questions. Um, what I
No,
also would love to have is, yeah, just more of these automated tips. Okay, this way we actually can run the following to initialize a .NET Core Console project.
is that a good start?
The question is, do you have .NET installed? But let's try it out. Let's see what no. Oh,
There we go.
okay, not too fast. Um,
I almost wish I didn't have, so it would have we could have asked it, but no, that's cool. That's cool.
yeah,
Um,
so like if you want to ask a question, say, how do I install C# or .NET on macOS? And it potentially should provide you with the current way. The only thing to keep in mind is that the large language model was trained on a specific data set, so it might not know about the current state of the documentation. I had seen this with some macOS instructions with Homebrew, where the path changed, like path from 2021 or something. And this is a problem we're trying to solve with like AI agents or integrations where the LLM can like query a function and say, do you have like more current information for me, like existing documentation or something, and embed that into the response for the request.
Cool. Cool.
If you're interested in that, we have an incubation engineering team working on that.
Brilliant. So yeah, I mean, it saves me even having to do hello world because it looks like that's the the default template. So I'm gonna follow its instructions to run it and see if it does what we expect. Well, looks good. Awesome. Well, that's our very
Oh, okay.
first hurdle.
Oh, okay. So the hello world example is actually, did you write any code? No, this was generated.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Straight out of the box. That was my default new project.
Okay, let's maybe try to instrument code suggestions for a moment in the program.cs and like create a new line, and start a comment saying what is a good example for .NET application?
So
Um,
what I was hoping to sort of poke around, so connecting to GitLab would be a really nice, like using the API. So I wouldn't mind asking something along those lines. You know, how can I make an API call to get some data back from GitLab?
yeah, let's remove GitLab for the first question
Okay,
and just say and start with like the algorithmic approach, like uh, connect to a REST API and print the response,
perfect. Yeah,
something like that. And if we need some more specifics, we should potentially refine the prompt. So now you can either accept everything with tab, or if you press command and cursor right, you can also accept specific characters or words, which can be helpful if you don't want to accept the entire suggestion, but instead, like for example, one line and verify that.
cool.
Um,
Okay, perfect. Um,
one thing which is also helpful is, and now I see you're moving fast already.
no, go on.
Um, if you don't understand what the source code is doing, or it actually tries to autocomplete the project ID, um, well, if you don't understand the generated source code like me, because I haven't seen that in a while, um, you can mark the line 6 until 9, or was it 5 until 9?
So like
So
highlight it, you know.
yeah, highlight everything,
Yep,
and then either right click on it. There's GitLab Duo Chat at the bottom, and say explain selected code. It's also a
nice,
shortcut
nice.
for that. And this will immediately invoke that on the right-hand side, or like wherever GitLab Duo Chat is. And then invoking this, this is a code task. If you look it up in the documentation /explain, you need to select source code, and then you can use GitLab Duo to explain what it does. And you can also refine the prompt and say explain the algorithm, or explain focused on specific variables or specific other things. But I found this super helpful to get a sense of, hey, now I've generated code, and it helps me with boilerplate code or algorithms, but what does it do actually? And to get a better sense of this source code works for me. When I debug something, it's helpful to understand what it does, and we can see it's a step-by-step explanation of creating a new HTTP client object, um, calling get async. Okay, it uses an async method in the background and passes the response string, like read a string async. That's a fancy function name. Um, yeah, to be honest, I usually break my fingers with all the camel case writing, but I do know autocompletion and other things are helpful as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, again, promising start. It
This
seems
actually
to have worked
works.
nicely. Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely. Um,
didn't expect that. So we can can iterate even faster. Um, what else can we
well,
do?
I think at this juncture, like make a decision as to whether we'd like. I quite like the idea you suggested earlier, as starting to think about pushing this up and adding a CI and gitignore and those kind of things. Because immediately I
Yeah.
can see if I was to push this up, that I think it's going to include all these like compiled binaries, etc. So we don't want that stuff. So should we ask
Oh
a
yeah,
question along those lines?
yeah, that's a good call out. I was thinking of refactoring the code to generate tests later on, but we can
Yeah.
do that in a
I'd
few
no, I'd
in a
love
few
to.
minutes.
It's,
Um,
yeah, no, that'd be great. Okay, so can you help me?
we want a gitignore and so on now. Yeah. And then persist it into like Git and have the first state of source code um, which is uploaded so that users can follow along. And the next steps are like making the code more readable, reusable, testable, and
Absolutely.
considering different things.
So, do you know what kind of context? Like, does it just have the conversation here as context when I ask this question, or does it have the project itself as context?
It has the previous chat history as context, and it should know about the open project.
Great.
But I've seen some occasions where it didn't work yet. So this, I mean, GitLab Duo Chat as of today, it's still in beta. So every time I kind of see something which is not expected, I'm giving feedback in the prompt so that our engineers um, can provide feedback. And the problem is sometimes there isn't the sample ignore attached. For some reason it's missing. So I'm kind of not giving up here, but thinking of okay, if something is missing, maybe there was some context lacking or it didn't understand what I exactly mean. So what I can do now is please create a gitignore and GitLab CI configuration for C sharp. Um, yeah, and provide copy paste examples, for example. So I'm really like forcing my opinion or forcing the things I need in a storytelling where like this is the problem, give me this in this format now. Or you continue the conversation like can you provide me like that, or can you provide me more context? Um, it depends. I'm sometimes I don't like waiting or like playing too much back and forth. So I've kind of developed a sense of this simple question doesn't work. How much context can I add to that? And I think working like the GitLab way with low context communication is also helpful. Providing all the context that is needed to move on. I think probably it makes sense to write this down.
So, yeah, it's not. It's it,
Okay,
it
it doesn't
it's
have access.
confused, isn't it?
Okay.
Well, no, yeah, I know, but like we did sort of say, so I can copy and paste them. So can you
Yeah,
print
then
the content of the files in this chat so I can copy paste, please? It almost thinks it's attaching them or sending them to me in some bizarre way that I've got the yeah, I don't.
yeah, I mean, it's a valid strategy to like ask for some missing things. I developed like something like I'm starting over, so I'm kind of refining the prompt, if you will. Um, oh,
There
now
we
it does
go.
something.
That's
Okay.
better. That's better. Okay. So it's like a fairly sensible starting gitignore.
Exactly, and I'm not sure if gitignore with refactor works fine, but I've also found ways if my questions in Duo Chat don't reliably work. So sometimes it refuses to explain me C++ or different algorithmic things, um, because the model has a limited set of what it can answer. So you cannot answer if the weather is or what the weather is, what the weather was in a specific year, or specific programming language examples. But I've also found a way to use code tasks to explain source code, to refine the prompt, and even get better responses.
Okay. Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Okay.
so
So
yeah,
it's done a build, a test, and a deploy. I'm going to tweak the deploy as it's not going to, in the context, doesn't really make sense. So we'll just do a run instead. Um, for the test, do you think I omit it until we've added tests, or I set a rule so it doesn't run, or what would be your suggestion?
so my development style is kind of I don't implement CI/CD for something that doesn't exist yet. I create an issue to create tests, but my suggestion would be to remove it from CI/CD until it's implemented.
Sounds good to
Um,
me.
I can, if I want to force my team kind of to implement tests and CI/CD is failing until then, you can do that, but it's not a really inclusive way of collaborating. So I think creating an issue and then working on implementing tests is a better way.
Right. So it's looking more promising now, just wanting to commit the solution, the project, the the, the
This
class
actual source code,
itself,
yeah.
the gitignore, and the CI. So would you be happy with me sort of creating a first commit to
Yeah, sure,
see
go ahead.
if it explodes?
Yeah, I mean, it can always explode.
Now, any preference as to whether I create a branch and push
No, no,
to
no, just
there?
you can either create a branch and merge request, you can push to main.
Cool.
It's
Perfect.
the idea really is to persist it. If we decide to say, well, we want to create a merge request and then refine CI/CD and so on, it's also possible. But in this case, I also figured um, that I'm breaking main because of typos in the YAML file, or I have I needed to like remove tests or refine the CLI prompt or something like that. So sometimes it's really like moving fast and focusing on the learning things.
Love it. Yeah, yeah. I opened Duo Chat in the browser just in case it gave me an attachment or something that maybe didn't work in VS Code, but apparently that wasn't the case. So let's have a look if our commit. All right, it's appeared and it's broken, which is fine.
This is
I,
fine. This is like if CI would work on the first approach, you probably can sign off for the week. No,
I
sometimes it's
have always said if anything, any development I'm working on whatsoever doesn't break on the first, then I'm actually worried. I'm concerned if it's green straight away.
yeah. And if stay there.
Yep,
There is a button called root cause analysis,
yep,
which is available. I think currently in the ultimate tier. Um, if you press that, you can generate a root cause analysis. So there's data being transmitted. This is the banner we just saw. Um, and it allows you, or if you're not a stack trace parser like myself, I kind of learned how to parse all these messages, but it seems we are targeting a different .NET version. So we need to use a different container image probably.
yep,
Um, and the example fix is either update the version of the Docker image to one that supports .NET 8.0,
yep.
or
Downgrade the version of .NET that we're actually using in the project. So I'm going to try now. Forgive me for what's the word? Ignoring Duo to a small extent, but the fact that it's suggesting that the latest is 7, but then talking about 8, I'm gonna get proven wrong, and I'm gonna try going to 8.
oh, yeah, can you? Yeah, okay, we're recording this. We can provide the feedback later on. I think root cause analysis will also be like based on Duo Chat at some point, or at least on the framework. Um,
Oh, so it's not using the same engine behind the hood.
I think so, but I do know like we started with AI experiments to really move fast, And now the Duo Chat framework or the AI framework is being like built for the different features. And some, I don't know exactly, and please don't like remind me of the roadmap here. Like make my statement the one you're referring to, but rather check out the roadmap. There is some ongoing work to like refactor things and use Duo Chat as a framework to create like a contextual uh, chat conversation, because I think it would be awesome to have root cause analysis and say, okay, thanks for the answer. Please explain it in more detail, or what else can I implement to avoid that? Thinking of, hey, can you provide me an optimized container image that I can host myself, for example? Um,
Gotcha.
and things like that. But I think this is something which is either on the way, or if customers want that, there can be a feature proposal or an issue um, which can be then planned or prioritized, whatever
Brilliant.
is needed.
So I imagine by now it would have already failed if the container didn't exist. Um,
It works.
and
It's
it
great to see.
works. Amazing.
I mean,
Um,
the JSON output is not readable, but we can work on that.
absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely. And yeah, I'm sort of again with you on do we tweak it a little bit more, or I wouldn't mind maybe creating a test project. I don't know that there's much to test at the moment, but
Yeah,
um,
this is actually one of the storytelling parts. I figured, hey, we have like raw code, or spaghetti code is something I use in German. Like you write from top down, you don't have any objects, you don't have classes, you don't have functions. And one of the things you can do is refactor that into a function, for example.
mhm,
If you repeat a step with selecting the source code from HTTP client, like line 6 to line 9 again, um, like with your mouse or with
yep,
like keyboard, then either right click, or we can also directly go into Duo Chat on the right hand side,
mhm,
type slash and refactor,
mhm,
press enter. We can refine. We can also write slash refactor and provide it more context, say refactor into a function for tests, or refactor into an object-oriented model with classes, and so on. I did test that with C++ last week, where I instructed Duo Chat to refactor functions into object-oriented code, which worked great.
perfect. Yeah, I was thinking like I'm hoping if we had have asked it to write tests, it may have almost suggested a refactor in the meantime, because I don't know how easily you can test something like this without like you say, classes and methods. So
It's
what's it
actually
saying in here? Create a reusable method. Um,
it
okay.
does what I was kind of expecting it to do, like providing a function parameter as a string to pass the URL,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then return the response as a raw string, or as a task string. Ah, okay. It's a mm, is
Again.
it something with futures and awaits? Mm,
Yeah.
maybe
Um, that's not
we
what I
can
want.
ask it.
That's what I meant to do. Still working. That's perfect.
Can you type explain await and async in C# with practical examples? Not sure if it will work, but I typically when I write code and I don't understand anything, my go-to is open a browser tab, have 100 of or like 20 of them, and then learn, or open the C# documentation and search for a await or async. But maybe there's a way to like avoid that context switch and just ask Duo Chat in the background while continuing to write code.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes it doesn't. In this case, it didn't provide any example, but maybe refining the prompt to say source code examples could also work. And then it's the thing, AI is not predictable. So sometimes the responses are great, sometimes they are usable but not so great. In this case, you can, for example, click on give feedback to improve this answer and say it was helpful.
I'll just say something.
Or something else, and the practical source code example was missing in the response or something similar. Because providing that feedback helps improve like the model or the instructions in the background, so we get better responses as a user.
Go up to these ones and do the same then.
And so yeah, the idea is to also like understand specific keywords in C# when they're being generated, or you could be like a seasoned C# developer, and I have no idea which .NET version is the current one. 0, 8.0, or is it 9.0, or is it? I've seen some. Was it called Edge? No, there is a cloud native deployment of .NET also available. So it's also a great way to learn about new language additions of functionality. Had that with C++ with Marco a while ago, learning about specific like a distance between iterators, which is
Yeah.
a C++ specific thing. But in this case, I think it's helpful to understand that allows writing asynchronous code that looks like synchronous code. It uses the async and the wait keywords to pause execution until asynchronous operations complete. Okay, so you don't need to have like any callbacks and events and listeners and things
Yeah.
things with polling and other hmm, other things that could break more easily or even harder to understand. So yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I wouldn't mind trying the test next. So what I don't know is maybe I'll go crazy and for the first thing I'll ask to generate tests for the everything and then see
Yeah.
what it sort of suggests from there.
What you can also do is like remember the shortcut of
Mm.
tests
Yep.
and only like select the function, for example, and then press the shortcut and you get like generated test cases from GitLab Duo.
Great.
Because I've seen myself, I'm still using the mouse a little bit, or like my trackpad actually. But I'm much faster learning all the keyboard extensions in Visual Studio Code. And I think if you're using JetBrains or Vim or something else, it's also um, it's faster. I don't know how chat will work in Vim, but this will be an interesting challenge in the future. But I talked with Aaron last week about it when we did touch base on the language server, which powers code suggestions and maybe do a chat in the future. So yeah, it's super interesting what's going on. The main idea is that we are getting more efficient, and did you get tests? Oh yeah,
So yeah, very helpful giving me tests, but what I sort of realize is that's that's kind of fine if we already had a test project and we're using tests, but because these are our first tests, we need a bit of help kind of getting started. So review.
yeah. This is not helpful because it didn't understand what the context is. It thinks you want to generate tests in GitLab.
Right,
Because it's
okay. So shall I ask her? I will ask before hitting enter this time. So um
so what I would recommend here, and I mean the answer is fine with the context of using the GitLab documentation and asking a GitLab question, but it's not what we wanted to have. And since it said before it cannot access the source code in the open project, okay, but we can help ourselves and say where, um, how how do I add tests to a C# project? Please explain um, the source tree or the directory tree and show a practical example.
I'd ask be a bit more brief first and then flesh it out as it goes. I am surprised it didn't use any of my context, the fact that we've been talking about C# for the last sort of 10 minutes or so.
I mean, this is also good feedback. I think it, for some reason, it immediately like looks up the GitLab documentation in that regard. I I don't know exactly how it's trained in the background to provide these answers. But I think, or what I want from GitLab Duo Chat is context-specific help, and it knows what I'm doing, and I don't need to refine the prompt.
Right, that's helpful. But yeah, now I think we need to go on to your sort of slightly more to say, right, can you help me with the commands I need to use or the files I need to create?
Yeah, so um, can you help me with the commands I need to run or use to create the test? I mean, when trying that with Rust and Python and also C++, also had like different results. So it's just a matter of asking the right questions. Um, but it's also a reminder to not to rely exclusively on GitLab Duo Chat, but rather say, okay, what other things can we do?
I think
For, for
I'm gonna
example,
go on.
I still try to avoid opening a browser tab, but sometimes it's faster. But one thing we can also do is we have used the .run.
Yeah, so there's a definite bug there, isn't there, about it thinking it's attaching or sending you something when it's not.
Yeah, it's definitely a bug. We can run .NET on the command line
I
and
was going to
pass
say, I know the answer to this question already, so I'm going to phrase it much easier and say, how can I create a .NET test project? And then I think it will give us the
using.
command.
Yeah, no, it might not know that it needs to give us the command. So I try to phrase or frame the questions as a way of, this is the problem. Please provide me with an action and a solution and the examples. And the example is like a command to run on the terminal. So XUnit test process. Okay, and or even like refine it depending on what you need. Um, I've found it. I've also I've studied some prompt engineering from different projects or how it's being implemented to ask specific questions. And it's really like you provide the problem statement, then then you specify what is needed. So is it like for this programming language? Is it for this tooling? Is it for this thing? And then you define what you need as an output. Is it a command line? Is it a source code example? Is it a specific printed image or whatever is needed? Um, and um, for some reason, it doesn't have the data built in.
I prefer it being honest like that and just saying, sorry, I can't help you with that.
Which is also a valid answer, but it's not a satisfying answer.
No, 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 no.
But I'm honest here. I want to have it provide that answer. And I, as a user, I don't care whether it's being trained in the LLM, in the large language model somehow, or it's using an AI agent to query live data, or it's fetching the data, I don't know, from the GitLab documentation. It should generate a helpful answer.
And
And
that even more so now. It's okay, so that's really helpful as well. So I'm going to try that as well. Um, awesome. And yeah, XUnit test project, XUnit, and it did state that, so perfect. Um, The answer was in its head somewhere. So creating this template will make changes to that. Let's create this template anyway. Yeah,
Forward
that's
files. It's quite interesting.
okay. So it's because I've already got a project in this folder. Test or test or whatever.
Node name. Okay.
So I've now got a test project and a test. Beautiful.
Is it best practice to create a test directory? I don't know.
So technically, it probably would have been better practice to have created a project, like an app, like a console app directory, and put the main project in its, so each project. So the root folder is a solution, which is this file here. And then within that solution, then you'd have multiple projects. So yeah, again, I think we're going to have to ask some questions because now I've created that project, but that project isn't referenced in the solution. So yeah, maybe I can move some stuff around and ask for some help with that.
Is this not a solution file? Is not XML. It's using something else.
Yeah, some weird format. So agree. How do I? Add a
To an existing solution.
project.
Hmm. Would also be interesting if .NET on the command line has a way to create like the tree for the source code for the tests. I don't
Yeah,
know,
like
but
scaffold an entire solution and not just um so okay. Um
yeah, it's helpful. Um, because really, like, you need to think of someone else tries to help you and doesn't know what you're using. For example, if there's a difference between macOS, Linux, and Windows, you might also want to factor that into the question, because sometimes you kind of need a specific command line. And it's like, yeah, if you run that, amazing. I don't have apt on my macOS. Um, but yeah, sometimes it can be challenging, but I like the challenge. Okay, .NET new
okay.
console.
So I might undo what I did there
So
with the
delete that.
test project exactly. And then from the root whoops a daisy.
Oh, it automatically changed the working directory to trash.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Right, try again. Okay, so we'll do our .NET New X unit, but this time we'll tell it a project name. Test. That's better. That's better.
Okay.
But
So I need to understand that my project is actually like a solution, and then I have like a project, and I have a test project, maybe.
exactly.
Okay.
So love it. Now I thought somewhere it did say about okay, but then that was in the previous response. It said add new project in there, give the project would appear. Oh no, maybe not. I thought so. What I know we need to do, so again, need a bit of a prompt on. So if we go back to where it had its test cases that it suggested a while ago. So we've got a program and get API response. So I'm tempted to copy this.
Yeah, just copy it. We can you can copy everything. So, and there's also the hover icon on the right-hand side with copying everything.
Got it.
Because sometimes I found it harder to select something in the window, which can be helpful if you copy everything. I also need to create a feature request for the Duo Chat team to add a copy button into the current code context. So where my cursor is at, kind of copy that into the source code window. This would also be helpful. Or maybe even a shortcut and saying pressing whatever, and then it gets inserted. I just don't understand the macros here or the.
So I think I know vaguely what's what. But again, we'll try and ask some good questions in a minute to help us. So this project has no reference to this one. So I'm actually surprised that it's even happy about this, to be honest. But I thought that first it would need a reference to this other project to be able to access it. Then again, this class doesn't actually have any kind of definition around it. It hasn't got a class name, so I wouldn't be surprised if I need to sort of define this as a class. And then
maybe it's implicit from the
possibly, yeah,
program.cs.
it might be. And then last of all, the visibility as well. I imagine that this is maybe a private method by default and only accessible from within this class. So I think, again, maybe we'll try and run .NET test or do something along those lines and see what error it gives us, or we'll try and build it or do something, and we'll give it the error message and see if it can help us.
Yeah, one thing I also like to do is in my workflows, I hover with my mouse over the red underline to maybe make a sense of what it's trying to tell me.
Yeah.
Maybe not this, but the get API response. Probably it will tell you program doesn't contain a definition for get API response. There's also a way like you can copy paste just this or explain that. It's a good idea. Visual Studio Code also has like a way of like view this problem and sometimes fix the problem, but this is like an IDE thing.
Right.
But I've also like found it helpful sometimes because oftentimes it's really like, oh, this is a private member of a class. I need to add like get and set method, for example. Not sure if it works exactly the same in C#, but I did it in C++. And yeah, I mean, it's development is like 10% writing code and 90% debugging why code doesn't work or adding tests. So yeah, I'm not surprised that we're running into errors now.
No, this makes total sense.
The assert probably needs either an import or something.
Yes. Although what's interesting is that the IDE is giving us, I don't know what I'd call this, but like the IDE knows what this is, but it's suggesting it. Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. Does not exist in the. Normally, there would be something here that says, "Okay, do you want me to, excuse me, import it for you?" I don't see how.
You need to ask. There is no better way, but think of it like as an input output thing. If you say perfect, how can I add blah blah blah? I probably won't know about it. So every question needs to have like this specific context or this specific. This is a problem. Here's the context. Please solve it like that. Which we will like. You and I need to practice that. and everyone else. And maybe hopefully in the future we just say, here, fancy source code, please fix it by yourself. But we're not there yet.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, I think that I'm going to get limited use until we are a little bit further, because my expectation really is that it understands some of this context. If every question is interpreted as a separate, a completely separate prompt,
Yeah.
then it's nowhere near AI like for me. But hopefully, and I've definitely seen in the past its responses have been fairly context aware. So I'm quite surprised by that. How
Yeah,
can
maybe this is also like a passing thing, like
I?
perfect. How can I reference? I don't know. Oh, and I think the main issue we are having with C# is that C# is like a Visual Studio
Yeah,
preferred
yeah,
environment, and everything outside of that is more or less treated as, yeah, maybe if you look it up somewhere, you might get a better answer for that.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I've seen Microsoft changing in that regard, especially with the .NET command and portability on different operating systems. Um, I wanted to add to the like thought around Duo Chat and the context. I think the more we use it, the better we can provide feedback to improve it. So
yes,
what I'm doing and what I also would love for you to do is, even if it doesn't work in the interim, or it's not providing the best answers, keep using it. Maybe we do another C# session, just to ensure that we capture all the different languages, because I've done a lot with C++ now. I've looked into Python, Rust, but I also want to explore Java, Golang, and everything else what is out there.
yep.
Just to ensure that everyone has like a good experience, and can also learn from what we're doing today and in the future.
No, I'd love to follow up either with you, or if you're juggling lots of these different sessions, then I'm happy to kind of perpetuate this one on C sharp specifically. Oh, sorry, I think that should have been. So I've just asked the question. You probably saw that about because it said just to add it to this file, which is great. I think this is highlighting what you said about C sharp maybe being a little bit Visual Studio-ish, and that the UI isn't that great.
It's it's
So
easier to edit this in Visual Studio in the UI. I know that.
yes,
So
oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
my 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 background was using this on a Windows virtual machine somewhere to create like an agent for a monitoring system. And the installer had a C# user interface. So we kind of had some classes reading the prompt and so on. Um, and every time we kind of wanted to edit something which was not available in the UI, we needed to jump into the XML configuration. And if you miss an angle bracket, the entire project is like gone. And then you kind of fix the error with the angle bracket, run it through an XML linter, um, which made this a little like not so great to use, I would say. But still, I think the more it reaches like mainstream or outside Windows, the UIs need to like get better, or the error handling needs to get better, because it's like I cannot read everything what is written in red there. But
Yeah, I mean,
the good
go on.
thing is you can like select the error and copy paste it either in Duo Chat or in Google. Or not Google, just the browser, your preferred browser engine,
Let's find the
or search
first.
engine. Hmm.
Okay. Um, so it's actually complaining about duplicate um, system runtime version target framework attribute, which is interesting because I don't see any.
This is the one for the CS project, but the test project has another one, right?
Yes, exactly. And there might be somewhere further down. No, there doesn't seem to be. Okay, so
What is the directive for an assembly reference? So what you can try to do is, I'm not sure if it will work. Copy everything with error and the string afterward into a chat.
what I'm gonna do is .NET new, what was it? Console name app, and then I don't know if there's a I'm basically going to move because I think that's what we should have done at the start. I think if I then take the code from program CS, put it into this one, I think that what it's getting confused because the way that a C# app .NET app works is it just almost what's the word, like enumerates the directory, so it's seeing the test project inside of the console app project, and it's getting confused. They should be kind of side by side rather than inside each other. So I think that I need to.
But the solution file needs to stay.
Yes, it does, but I need to get rid of that. And then what was the command that I used? Solution add app. Hopefully we're looking a little bit tidier.
So .NET SLN add app.
Down to 5 errors. That's definitely an improvement. And yeah, this is what I would expect. I would expect it not to be able to see program.
And before it saw it, because it was on the main directory and kind of implicitly had it.
Yes.
But now it's in a separate directory, so you need to kind of.
So we need to go into app and then into
app CS
project. Exactly. With every step we get a bit closer. Okay, maybe not.
But what is the error? It's protection level. Program
Perfect.
is inacceptable.
That changed when we changed that changed that. So again, should I?
Can you? So what I want to try is if you copy paste the error, so like in the terminal, mark, no, not the entire error, just when it starts error, like this one. Yeah, this is fine. Or just the error string, and explain.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, so it'll explain what I've highlighted there, will it?
I'm not sure if this works in the terminal, but I want to say, just type. Does this work?
Soon find out.
This is something I never tried. I copy pasted it and said explain, and then pasted in the error string and said please help me. Okay, there is no code.
Okay, fine. No,
It cannot explain
so, so you would say explain that, or
no, I was removing the slash to just say.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Explain and then like this one in the hope it does something. I'm not sure if it will provide anything helpful, but it's no, it's my attempt to say, well, this is my search window now, please do something with it. But in the meantime, I can also like try to figure out what Visual Studio Code is providing me as a help, because I've seen that there is an error being linked. So if you change back into the unit test file, it actually, if you hover over program with the mouse, then you have like the CS.
Yeah.
Oh, there's actually a quick fix available. Interesting.
Yeah, I was interested to see what but none of those are really appropriate, to be honest.
Make the program class public by removing or changing its access modifier. Move the code. Okay, this is a good practice for, can you change into the app program CS?
Yep.
Mark all the code, then type /refactor.
And can I give it a prompt as well? Yeah.
Yeah, into a class or into.
That's fine.
I'm not. I think it will work.
I'm full of optimism as well.
I've tried it. As I said, I've tried it last week with C++, going from functions into like object-oriented things, and I got something which I could copy paste, which looks great here. No, no, use the button.
Okay.
It's and then
has it missed out? It's missed hit hello world or not? Yeah, I think it has, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not overly fast. I might try and add that back in.
Yeah, I think especially because hello world isn't a function. But yeah, it's main. This is this is this requires me to think a little different because in C and C++, main still remains like a function.
Okay.
But can only be used within an async method. Ooh.
So I'm just going to try something quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, the problem is now that you've changed the function interface for get API response. You need to also change it in the definition in line 4. Or we kind of create a wrapper.
I don't think it really matters too much, to be honest. I think so the problem is more, it's all about the unit tests at the moment. So I'm kind of like, right, we've got to a point where it now sees this method, which is awesome.
Okay.
So now I guess we can try and get some support understanding why it doesn't like the assertion.
Yeah, what some of the things I like doing is like press enter after the semicolon and start typing assert dot and see what it does.
Okay, so like this.
And okay, it's not equal, does not contain. Maybe we can also ask code suggestions in a
Yeah,
way of
no,
saying,
it is suggesting not now. So
oh, my alternative approach would be to like write a comment and say, use a URL and test the result that it's not null, and then have it
yeah.
generate something. And in this regard, test the status code against 429, for
Although
example.
this is a weird, like this test's never gonna be never gonna work anyway, so I might just get rid of that one for the moment. Awesome.
Okay.
So we're building
What is the warning?
so the warning, I really should have shut this up originally. I'm connected to a private
You have a
NuGet.
proxy. Okay.
Well, yeah, it's a private NuGet repository and it's running on HTTP, not HTTPS. So it's just complaining that that's going to be like deprecated soon or something like that.
So we need to fix the infrastructure in a future session.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
See if Duo can help with that.
But it's good to know that you can run your own NuGet repository.
So the app's still working, which is good.
And if we run test,
and the test,
boom,
2 passed. Wow.
can we make it fail? Yeah, we can make it fail. Can you edit assert not null to assert null or something like that?
Sounds good to me.
Mm. I'm generally like, I don't trust running tests.
I agree. Yep.
I
Yeah,
want to see it
absolutely.
fail.
Yeah.
Um, oh, the
So, uh,
example.com is actually a registered domain. Okay. Or it's registered and has a web server behind it. That is interesting.
yeah, it's not ideal, is it? Because I know example.org and like there's a few that I thought were specifically reserved and supposed to be used for um like testing purposes because you knew that like if you send emails accidentally, they'll never go anywhere. I thought
But you,
example.com was one of them, but maybe not.
yeah, but for our example, we can just use gitlab.com and in a new test, and we can ask maybe as a last step for today, add a new function which tests for a specific string in the website response.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Okay.
we can like leave this be, or maybe only change the URL to gitlab.com.
No,
Uh,
I like what you were saying there. We would say something like test um, the response from
gitlab.com.
yeah.
No, or that's from gitlab.com. Uh, contains,
Am I being optimistic?
yeah. Um, DevSec. Yeah, you missed the ops, but okay. Yeah.
Just you. Um, I mean, I don't know that GitLab.com would because it probably. Oh wow, amazing. Um,
What would be helpful is no, stop.
go on.
Oh, or like you can run that. I was wondering if we can ask Duo code suggestions to print the result for debugging. Um, not by writing the code ourselves, but like if you change into the line on top, like in line 25, press enter and add a comment and say print result for debugging in a readable way. Format. Yeah. Enter.
I think I shouldn't need to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, actually I was hoping for JSON decode. Um,
Likewise. Yeah.
not now. Okay, this needs something to
We have to
use.
add the library exactly.
Okay, this is great that this works automatically. I also need to learn that. Um, I have been writing C++ code for many years using Vim, where this this type of quick fix didn't exist.
Yeah.
Okay, then
Of
invalid
course, it's
start
not a
dot.
JSON response, is it? That's coming back. It's HTML. So that kind of makes sense why it's.
Okay, yeah, then let's remove the two lines and print HTML result for debugging in a readable format.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too sure what a readable HTML would look like. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, this is just me. I want to see something how code suggestions does something, but for some reason it trusts JSON. So
I think what we're better doing then is
yeah,
stepping back and say it says
no,
from
no, no. So can you re-add the source code? Leave it as an example. Just remove line 28,
yep.
and we start with a new test case.
Cool. Okay. No, sounds good. Shall
Um,
I? I'm also thinking this is a good point at which to
yeah,
yeah, you know what I
I,
was gonna say.
I would give us another 10 minutes. But then we should stop, or then we like make a stop for today and continue.
Absolutely.
Um, the thought I just had was adding another test case which tests against the GitLab API. Um,
Yeah, well, that's what I because I wanted to see it using like the JSON, which doesn't make sense. Um, doesn't make sense. That's the response.
I
Yeah,
think
so
that's fine. It should generate something. there are many projects available.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
So,
Contains ID result.
so what I'm going to do now is what you were suggesting here and say print the result in a readable
Yeah, so
format.
because in
Because this
Python
is
I'm
JSON.
using JSON dumps with some indent and pretty print. Okay, interesting. I'm not sure if this will work, but
Yeah, I'm not sure whether tests like suppress
I mean the thing is
console output or not.
it's easy to run and test. Um, maybe console write line. Okay.
We kind of want a specific, I don't know, like
Yeah, can you I mean I think it's possible to add a no stop to create a new function
right.
at the bottom maybe and say public or no. Add a comment saying create a JSON pretty print function. I'm curious what
Um,
happens here.
I'm just wondering. It doesn't really matter. I wondered whether we should do it in.
This should be in the test function, in the test class for now. We can always move code later on when it should become like a util class or something like that. No.
It was very slow before, so I'll give it another second.
I think you need to press enter to like.
Shouldn't need to be honest. And there should be a little icon appearing here to show that code suggestions is its brains working.
Maybe for some reason it thinks.
Oh, there you go. It's back.
Yeah, so I don't know. This suggestion doesn't make any sense. But yeah, sometimes the prompt is you need to trigger it in the way. And I would recommend to watch the Duo Coffee Chat with Aaron from last week, how things are being passed to determine whether it should be a code generation from the comment or like a code completion, depending on what we're writing.
Right.
And for some reason, it doesn't understand that we want to create a C# function now. But I think the response is not what we intended to have. But maybe let's delete the comment and try something else.
What if we go a little bit further? So, public string, I don't know if it'd be a string, reprint. Oh, there we go. There we go.
Do you need to continue writing the code?
I'm hoping it all. So,
Doesn't like us today. Okay. New JSON string, I would guess. Type.
don't know why it's just giving up. It's like it's cached something and not happy about.
What is this? You 3 minutes ago. Is this some add-on from Visual Studio Code?
What's that? Sorry.
I'm seeing a gray underlined thing which says you 3 minutes ago. Is this
Oh yeah,
some?
that's just Git. That's like your Git history showing who changed this file
Ah.
when. Yeah, if you haven't got that, I 100% recommend it. It's called Code Lens, and it's when you're working like collaborating on a project, it's sort of invaluable.
Oh, I was confused now because I thought this was a code suggestion actually, and was like, "Hey, this doesn't make
No,
sense
no,
in
no.
this context."
No, it's just saying who modified this, when it was
Okay.
modified, and yeah, yeah.
Okay, so for everyone wondering, like me, this is not a code suggestion. Pretty print JSON serializer new space maybe.
Nah, not interested in it.
Okay, JSON pretty print.
It was worth a try. Maybe we could go back to asking, because now I've pushed that up, it's going to have run, but it's not going to have run
We can
any
actually
tests.
we should be running our tests and then like finish the session, and we can debug the pretty print in the future.
So I'm interested what okay, yeah, so we need to fix that, which we've sort of already done because I already ran them from here, so I know that should be project app. But then we can ask for help, add in so say
we can actually refactor add tests.
and I thought that was the case. It's because it's a YAML file, it won't attempt to code suggestions won't attempt to run in this file.
Interesting.
I'd love to see that though,
but you use the same workaround as I use when there is no code suggestions available. I use one of the code tasks to get code suggestions or generation from Duo Chat, which often works just fine.
Actually,
Even though, we need to adopt this. Does this work if I run project test?
Yeah, I'll have a look if it does. I think it probably does, but it's also unnecessary because it can tell that there's a test, but no, it doesn't. So we need to remove that bit.
So you can like add that, push that, and then everything is green, and we can conclude for today, or not conclude.
Absolutely.
We can finish the learning curve for today, like starting a new C# project, figuring out the structure with tests and the actual application source code, asking Duo Chat a lot of questions, and also being able to create a pipeline, refactor the source code into functions, into object-oriented code, into adding tests. And from there, we can continue our adventures in C# in the future.
Absolutely. I think this is a purely, I don't know what you call it, like incidental.
For some reason, the container cannot be pulled.
Exactly, yeah. I see that from time to time in pipelines.
Which also could be a way of saying, well, I want to host my own container, or I want to use the dependency proxy, which I think will be supporting different registries in the future. And anyways, or using your own runner could also be a way.
Yeah, I must admit, I tried to switch recently to, I forget what they call it, but using like where you don't pull the container if the container is already available. But I see that that's only available on private runners. So let's just have a look.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a pull policy or something like that.
Exactly that.
Yeah, so we are just waiting for the pipeline run, and then we stop the video.
Yep, sounds good. Job succeeded. So we've now got a nice pipeline with a test job and a deploy. Well, run, execute, whatever you want to call it. Brilliant. Love it.
Then thanks so much for the session today.
Thank you.
Hopefully we can continue in the future at some point and start learning or start adopting more C# together with GitLab Duo.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Michael.